Hi, welcome back to the MachineMax Podcast. I'm Jennifer, I'm the Chief Product Officer for MachineMax, and today I have Hugh from SensingFeeling with us. We've started a partnership recently towards the end of last year, and today we're just going to talk a bit about what we're hoping to achieve together, some challenges that we found, and typically just what we think good use cases might be within the construction industry. Thanks for joining us, Hugh.
Lovely to see you again. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Tell us a bit about SensingFeeling.
Okay, so we're SensingFeeling. We're a visual sensing company using machine learning. We operate in three particular sectors. The first is highways and smart cities. We are helping organisations understand the current layout of their cities, their roads, their highways, their pavements. The second is within the public spaces and stadia, where we're helping stadium owners and areas in public spaces understand crowding, understand queuing, etc. And the third is construction and heavy plant, where we're helping organisations understand where their machines are and where their people are. And what do I mean by that, helping those organisations? What we operate is we have the ability to sense images with our software, and to be able to identify, therefore, when things are in proximity, what distance, flow paths, etc. And by doing so, we're able to build images that are fully GDPR compliant for our clients. And so those are the three sectors that we operate in.
It's such an exciting space, and the way it's evolving. And certainly from our perspective, we love the way in which you guys solve problems, just because, you can solve it using a camera at an entrance to a site instead of putting hardware on absolutely everything that enters the site. So it's really wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about successes you've had along the journey, any standout projects or examples that you'd like to talk about, maybe more on the construction side?
Yeah, so it's interesting just some of the stuff we're doing very recently. If I start with that, we've recently installed 4 camera sensors at Old Oak Common, which is one of the UK's largest construction sites. They're building the HS2 terminal station for London at that particular point. Those cameras have just gone in, and we are in the process of starting to collate data. Particularly they're concerned about worker safety, and concerned about individuals. Are they wearing all their full PPE, for example? Are they ensuring that individuals stay the specified distance away from heavy vehicles or cranes? Yep. Obviously, there's a huge amount of soil and earth that has to come out of that site.
It's a very busy site.
It's a very busy site, so there's an awful lot going on. So health and safety in that particular aspect. We've done other projects, not dissimilar to the one we're working on with you, but not with drones, but with satellites, where we have taken satellite imagery to understand over a large area assets that are sited hundreds of miles or distant from the satellite itself, to identify what those particular assets might be for organisations. Particularly if they want to identify whether there are legal or illegal activities going on in particular zones or regions. Other things we've had closer to home. I moved to the highways area. We are working with a number of county councils in the UK to help them understand the traffic flows that they have at particular junctions, or junctions where there is a lot of both vehicular activity and pedestrian activity, where ostensibly they could be unsafe. And some of those are considering how they redesign those junctions to make them safer. Again, we're able to produce heat maps and flow paths, and we can do it by down to a few seconds or over a period of hours. There's ultimate flexibility in how you look at the data.
And all of this is from taking the likes of, maybe in those cases, a CCTV or standalone camera that's monitoring a particular area, But then the versatility is wonderful in that, as you alluded to, our project from drone imagery and satellite. So it's really just like analyzing all of the imagery to make sense out of it.
Absolutely. And so we can use existing assets in the case of CCTV, or if individual organizations want a new device, that can be purchased. And we take the data and we analyze it, but we take that data actually at the source of the camera itself, so we don't transmit any video imagery back. Yeah, we've got lots of other. We've recently we're analysing this week a stadium where there was in Germany where a football match was played. We're analysing all the data that's coming off the back of that in order to help the organisers of the stadium think about their queue lengths for their merchandise stalls and their refreshment stalls. So there's a wide variety of ways in which this visual information can be used, analysed and processed to make better decisions for those organisations.
Amazing. I mean, as you know, in MachineMax, what we're setting out to do is to enable our customers to make better decisions by getting all kinds of data. And the view is that if they can get the data that they need to make the decision process, you're streamlining that whole process. You can make decisions faster. And often what we find is that people on site will be downloading data from lots of different places in Excel, trying to piece it all together, where actually they are professionals and very experienced, so they almost know the answers. Someone would have a gut instinct as to where the bottleneck is and with the flow paths, but you're really just looking for the data to validate and prove it.
Yes.
And that's what makes it so attractive for us working with you guys, because I think we know and see that within construction, there's so many sources of data and so many decisions that need to be made. I think you cannot, if you're setting out to create a one source of truth, you can't be the master of every kind of data source and set out to build it. And that's why we're with you, and I love the idea of partnering with you and your data, because as I said earlier, it's really attractive to have a few cameras on a site which cover a large area, but tracking all kinds of assets and the flexibility to be able to analyze people coming in and machines coming in, materials, the insights that you get from that paired with our data from the machines is really exciting.
Yes.
And in construction, again, I think the answer to success for digitalization is just really working with good partner companies and focusing on the integration so that we can all get the best kind of data sets together.
Well, we're delighted to be working with you, because historically, as a visual sensing organisation, we were focused only about the visual aspect. We had one individual project, I think, when we were working with an audio sensing company, but it was a single instance where they were tracking audio sensing for graffiti, and they were detecting the sound of a rattle can.
Loved that use case when I first heard
great
about
use
it.
case. But I say prior to that, the whole idea of working with you now is that opens up all these opportunities for we can, in terms of the way in which we present ourselves, we can talk about the relationship with you. We can introduce you to some of our customers. But the whole idea of using your vibration sensors and other sensors on the vehicle opens up a whole new avenue for us both.
Well, on that note, maybe now's a good time to talk about one of our projects that we are working on together, which is really exciting. I think our challenge that we've always found on a site, think of bulk earthworks, big infrastructure projects, is that we have a lot of information about the machines and the individual material movements. So you may have dump truck 1, it gets loaded with X amount of tons on the back, that gets moved, or cubes, and that gets moved to, say, the storage area where it waits for testing. A dump truck 2 may come a few days later, pick it up, take it to the stores because it was raining, and then ultimately another dump truck number 4 will come and pick that same amount of dirt up and put that in its final resting place. And that's really useful information to track the progress of your daily goals and how that's going. But what our challenge was that ultimately for these big projects, you're measured on what your total earth coming out from the ground is and how much you're putting in its final resting place or it's leaving site to go elsewhere. And that becomes quite hard to piece together when you're doing all kinds of individual machine tracking. And so at this point, I'm going to hand over to you as to how you're helping us solve the big picture of what those total progress is on your earth moving on a site.
Yeah, no, thank you, Jen. So we're really excited about this project. It's the first time we've been involved in one of this nature. And ostensibly, it's quite simple. We obtain data using drones that fly over a particular site. We can identify the proximities of the edges of the site, and that will fly at the start of a period, and it'll fly over at the end of a period. And what we're able to do, therefore, is look at the changes that have taken place in the topography of that piece of land during that period. Our artificial intelligence can identify vehicles that are placed there, and we can take them out of the equation, simply and easy out of both sets. But then we're left with a simple question, a simple answer to a question: how much material has been removed from that location, which we're able to produce. So we're very excited about that, as I say, as a project. It's an adjunct to what we've previously done, which was the identification of the vehicles or the buildings that take place that are in the particular areas. But it's a great new use case for an adjunct to our existing technology. Absolutely,
and what we think is also quite pioneering around it all is that you're automating all of it too. So the algorithm, one would need to do is submit 2 sequential drone images in a particular format, and a number comes out. Obviously, I'm massively oversimplifying it, but that's also something that we've seen a lot of individuals on site who are going into very specialized packages and really trying to calculate these in great detail. And so it's wonderful. It comes out and you get a number and it's good. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, I have simplified it for the benefit of this conversation, of course. And there are a lot of very clever people working behind the scenes to develop the algorithm. But the whole idea, you're right, is ultimately what we want to have is a simple API that organisations can connect to, and then, as you say, just post 2 images. Now, clearly in the back end, there's a lot of complexity. Absolutely. We have to identify, as we were talking earlier before the podcast, identification of the individual vehicles that they may have on site. And our AI will have to learn, all of those different types, the size and the shape of them, in order to understand those that are being taken away.
And not only identify them, but be able to identify them from the top, because it's using drone imagery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which is not always simple and straightforward, because identifying from the side is where most identification seems to play, be it the number or the shape of the thing, easily identifiable from the side, not necessarily from above. So those are new models that we're creating, we're teaching our intelligence to understand. We have, we're at the leading edge of new software analysis of imagery. So, and in this particular case, as you say, the identification of those from above is a new use case. We've not done that before, other than with the satellites that I mentioned earlier. But for a wide range of different vehicle types, again, is something we'll add to the algorithm. And then, as you say, we will have an automated, a relatively automated product that could be used by many other organisations.
Absolutely. And for us, the benefit is, you get that what the volumetric movement has been for a particular period, but then for us to relate that back to machines, you then all of a sudden start to get, well, this is my overall progress for this particular period of time on site with total movements. But what's interesting is you also have all the granular individual movements from the machines, and you can start to really get an idea of how much your rehandling is costing you, how much having to store earth for long periods of time because of weather and or testing, you really are able to analyze and process that because you have both ends of the spectrum, which again, I think knowing what margins are in construction and how it's not the most efficient industry for various reasons, it's useful to have that data to then be able to see where you can improve on things.
Oh yeah, I mean the construction industry for years has operated on, as we know, on very, very fine margins. You know, and there's big risks involved, as you say. You know, it's the weather, it's the type of material that you're having to move. Any double handling it causes huge issues with productivity. So yes, you're right. The ability to be able to measure at the macro level and see, are we tracking to our overall plan, which will, you know, from which we'll understand our profitability on the job. But then to be able to dive down into the detail and get that granular view and identify some of those particular problems, which, as you said earlier, might intuitively, in some individuals might intuitively know, but then you might get 3 or 4 individuals who actually have got different intuitive views. And providing the data will make such a big difference. And
just having it in one place, which really, as we go to construction sites and speak to customers, more often than not, you hear a comment of not another platform. And I think if you look at the Contech industry, it has absolutely flourished in the last few years, and all kinds of specialist products have come in, and it's wonderful. I think what the challenge is, everyone talks about this digital site and a connected industry, but how do you piece it all together so that you can make sense of it, so that an individual doesn't need to access 10 different systems, download the data in Excel, and just build the report that they ultimately want. And my sense is that I think the answer is in partnerships, and it's around working with different specialists to build this digital connected site, which is great. So, I mean, the idea of a connected site is great, and we talk about partnerships, but you also don't want to do partnerships for one-off projects or individual use cases. You want it to be sustainable. And I think, again, the ideas that we have with working with SensingFeeling, there are so many opportunities. For one, it's a good intersection of other cameras that are used on site. For example, some of our customers have in-cab cameras, which is quite common with fleet management, where you have things like driver fatigue monitoring. And it's about, well, can you start to merge data sets or get information from those in-cab cameras in a way that you can then start to say, this driver's safety may be at risk because of certain objects that are in the way, or things that are happening with the data that we have coming from the machines. So I think that's one use case. And what also is very exciting for us, and I alluded to it earlier, is that you can solve many problems with a camera put at certain strategic points, rather than putting lots of different sensors on people and machines. So things like we right now have a very big focus on productivity, and we've spoken at length and seen some of your use cases where you monitor incoming tracks or outgoing tracks, and you can start to then estimate what your total outflow of material is on a particular site without having to track all of those machines individually. So we're very excited as to where this takes us to, and I think our success is based on as many examples as we can think of is where all the opportunities lie, which is really wonderful.
So yes, thanks. So some examples of work that we've previously done. Actually, we've worked with Lloyd's Register on shipping to identify on the bridge of a ship. We've placed cameras that could identify fatigue within the crew on board, and that was both in terms of facial expressions, but also the way in which the processes by which the individuals had to go through at any one time. So if for some reason certain processes weren't done in a particular order, that's an indication of stress and fatigue. Now, we all know that stress and fatigue when you're in the shipping environment, these are large items, highly valuable, and any accidents or issues there are very expensive. So we already have experience in that particular vein. Another example we've been working on, as you mentioned earlier, the ability to use fewer sensors. We've been working on something recently whereby within a particular area we're able to look at, and this is a venue for entertainment, we're able to look at knowing the entrance and exit points. At any one time we're able to track individuals moving through into a particular area and out. So at all times we know how many people there happen to be in the area. Or moving to the construction site example, as we mentioned earlier, how much material has moved in and out. So at any time we're able to identify a number or a value. And indeed, something very close to home, our office has asked us to, we share our office with a number of other organisations, and the office has asked us to put a little sensor up so we can track people coming in and out of the lift. So at any time we know precisely how many people are in the building. So you don't have to worry if there's a fire register exactly how many people were there. For example, we know at any one time. But yes, you're right. The ability, if you've got a controlled area, you can, with very few sensors, you can track vehicles, material, aggregate, whatever it happens to be, moving in and out of those particular zones.
And what's interesting is a lot of the use cases that you've spoken about now aren't in construction, but actually the problems to be solved across all these industries typically are very similar, and so you can take the learnings from the different, and you also don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can just look at how other people have solved it and take the learnings from that, which is great.
Yeah.
Hugh, thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you very much for coming in today, and we look forward to working with you in the future.
Jen, thank you very much again for the opportunity to just get our message out to a wider audience, and I'm really excited about the project we're working on and the projects to come.
As are we. Thanks, Hugh.
Thank you.